of you will remember from last year when he came, and he is back this year with us. He is the Director of Engagement for Destiny Rescue, which is an amazing organization that rescues kids out of human trafficking. And let me tell you, he's got some pretty mind-blowing stories for what's been going on with their organization and the partnerships that other churches and businesses have been accomplishing with them. So if you would, this morning again, please give a hand to my friend and my brother, Chris Russell.
Well, good morning, Federated family. It's good to be back with you. And I don't know, what you get here for snow just doesn't really count as snow. Like when you're from the north, it's just a little bit different. So I'm guessing there's probably a few faces that are new this year from when I was here last year. So my name is Chris Russell, live in Goshen, Indiana. Luke and I, 4 years, we were on team together at Community Church of Waterford there. I know we got a few of you watching online from Goshen, so good morning to you guys as well. Thank you for allowing me to be here and to be able to share God's heart on this issue with you. So let's start with kind of the big picture view of stuff. Human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal activity in the world right now. Like, anybody ready to watch some football today? I know where we're at, none of the teams are good. The Colts, the Steelers, the Bears, is there anybody, Kansas City. I was waiting for you, Abby. I gave you an opportunity, Abby, to dote on your Chiefs. But the NFL makes a ton of money, don't they? They make $8 billion a year, most profitable sport. Human trafficking makes over $150 billion a year. And we know of that $150 billion, we estimate about $99 billion of that is specifically sex trafficking. And we know that right now around the world, there are over 1 million kids who are being sex trafficked. And it's just not okay for us to sit on the sidelines. God's people are called to something bigger. In fact, Psalm 82:4 tells us our marching orders. It says, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hands of the wicked. That's our marching orders. That's my marching orders. That's your marching orders as followers of Christ. And God is doing some amazing things. And because of people like you, because of churches like yours, last year we were able to rescue 2,386 individuals out of trafficking situations. The youngest were 2 8-month-olds. One was a kidnapping situation that we were asked to partake in, and another one was a generational situation where you have a girl who belongs to a brothel that has a baby, and that baby now belongs to the brothel, and it's just a matter of time before something happens to that little one. We were able to rescue both of those precious little ones without any kind of injury or neglect and abuse happening to them. But here's another good news too. 2,386 last year. Our best year by far. We passed that number at the end of September already. We are going to blow past 3,000 rescues this year. And it's people like yours and like you and churches like yours that help make that possible. So just as a review, I know some of you heard a little bit of this last year, but I know we've got some new faces. So let me talk about, we have 4 types of rescue, if we want to put that slide up. Do we have slides? So the 4 types of rescue that we do. So on the right, survival, that's the new one, and that's where I'm going to be telling you more of the stories from today, because a few months ago I had an opportunity to go to Africa for 3 weeks and visit 4 of our ministry sites in 3 different countries. But survival rescues are interesting because when we're getting into survival rescues, we're not even necessarily dealing with traffickers. We're talking about such a level of desperation that the girls are simply having to sell themselves so they can eat that day. And that's what we're getting into with survival rescues. Raids are where we have, it's an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, where it allows our guys to go in with hidden body cameras on us. This is about half of our rescues. So we have 35 to 40 full-time undercover agents, and when they get to go out and they suspect a place of using and abusing young girls, we get to send them in, and they're able to gather video evidence against the traffickers. So not only do they gather evidence about girls, underage girls being abused, but they gather legal evidence against the traffickers and against the businesses. So when we have enough evidence, we get to send the signal to the rest of our team who goes with the local team, hits this place, does a raid, and they're able to get all the girls out of that situation, and they're able to shut down the business, arrest the traffickers, and then prosecute those traffickers to the fullest extent of the law. That's about half of our rescues. Covert rescues, I'm on our U.S. team, but when I get a chance to travel, I get to go out undercover with our guys. And when we're doing covert rescues, we're going into places pretending to be customers. And we're going in, we're sitting down, the girls gather around your table. They don't have hello, my name is tags on them. Nobody cares what their name is. In fact, many places you go to, the girls literally have numbers pinned onto them, and that's how you order them for the night. And we go in, we build the trust level with the girls so that after a couple nights, we pay the bar fine because we have to compensate the owner because he's losing an employee selling drinks and making him money. So we have to compensate him for that, and then we take the girl away. They think we're taking them back to our hotel to abuse them, but what we're really doing is taking them to a safe place where our caseworkers or local agents are able to say, hey, this is who we really are. This is what we can do to help you get out of that. And then the girls can choose to go into our care. And then border stations, one of the countries we work in is Nepal. And there's a 1,000-mile border that's an open border between Nepal and one of the neighboring countries, which is one of the worst countries on the planet when it comes to trafficking. And what's happening is traffickers are coming from this other country, and they are going into these poor villages where they can prey upon these girls, and they're promising them great paying jobs, or they're playing this ruse if they met them online that they've fallen in love with them. So then these girls are crossing this border thinking that they're going to a great future, and our agents, who in this case are almost all local females, are allowed to stop them and ask them questions. And if any red flags go up, they call back to their homes, and they find out almost all the time that the parents have no idea that they're at that border, and if they take one step across that border, they will never be seen again by their family. So those are the 4 basic types of rescue that we do. But I want to go ahead and show you a video of one of those, that covert rescue. You're going to see the video in this is from those undercover body cameras. And this is Tony, who is our founder, and this is one of our newer videos that we came out with. It's called Less Than the Price of a Beer. So let's take a look at that.
Come. 100, 600. Come.
In one of the southern Asian nations that we work in, it is by far the biggest trafficking problem that we've seen anywhere in the world.
How much? 2,000.
And there is a large number of girls and women from Nepal being trafficked here to be sexually exploited.
Where are you from? Nepal. Nepalese. Oh, yeah.
In this particular brothel we went into, they've got these dirty little rooms that the guys would take the girls into.
You can hear the noise that the people are inside.
You be to be body to body. Don't take tension.
It's just like a meat factory. You just go in, yeah, I want that, do the deed, leave. She comes out, another guy, yep, I want that. And she just goes over and over again. I heard numbers up to 40 times in one day.
This should be 14 years. 14 years. Where? Here.
There was a young girl sitting up against the wall and she clearly looked like a minor. When I sat down next to that kid, I asked the pimp, you know, do you have any beers? Because it's not normal to just sit and talk to the girls.
How much would you?
When we started talking about how much it was to take this young kid into a room and have sex with her, it was less than the price of the beer that I was drinking.
How much are you asking for? 300.
That just blew me away, that this beautiful young kid, the value that they attached to her wasn't even worth a beer. And I just can't get my head around that. It's just, how can we devalue children and young women so low? Like, how did we get here? To them, she's not even worth a beer. You know, for less than a beer, you can be abusing this kid. Like,
stuff to see, isn't it? You know, I have 3 daughters. My girls are 19, 15, and 9. And there's nothing I wouldn't do. Man, the allergies are bad back here in Oklahoma. There's nothing I wouldn't do to keep my girls safe. To make sure that they knew that they were loved and protected. And knew that they understood the love of a Savior. My guess is we got some people in here who have daughters and granddaughters and nieces and special young ladies in your lives as well, that you would do anything to make sure that they stay safe and are loved and protected as well. And the reality is there's a lot of kids on our planet that don't have someone to stand in the gap for them. And we get to do that together. You know, it's not just about rescuing kids. We want to make sure that they stay free. So we have what's called a freedom plan. You don't have to read everything that's up on the screen there. This is the gist of it. Every girl, the people who know her best, are going to come up with a plan to help her succeed for the long haul. So you can imagine some of the medical trauma that comes out for these girls when they've been rescued, the physical trauma, the emotional, the psychological, the spiritual trauma, the need for job training or education. We're going to come up with a plan that's going to help them succeed for the long haul. And we're going to get into job training as well, which I've got a few stories for you. And then our next slide is that we're a Christian organization. So at the very center, of the very core of who we are is making sure that these girls not only get to meet their human rescuers, but they get to meet the ultimate rescuer as well. So let's go to the next slide here. Let me share some stories with you. Is that okay? So we went to Africa. As you can imagine, during COVID, a lot of travel has just been shut down. So the team, I went, our CEO went, our international marketing director, and then our main film guy who made that film that you saw. He's actually from England. The 4 of us went, and we spent 3 weeks in Africa. And we went to Uganda, which we have been working in for 1.5 years, and then we went to 2 other countries, which at this point are undisclosed because they're pilot status. So what we do is we go into a new country to rescue, and we have 3 things that we've got to check the boxes on. We got to make sure that the local ministry that we're working with, that those relationships are going well. We need to make sure that we feel like relationships with local leadership is going well, and we need to make sure that the program is sustainable for the long haul. If we check all 3 of those boxes, then it becomes a public nation. So as of right now, we officially are rescuing in 10 countries, and we have 3 pilot countries that are going on. And our goal is to be in 30 countries by the end of 2030. So we have to grow together as fast as possible to be able to make that happen. We have to. There's over 1 million kids out there being abused, and it's not okay. So when we went to Africa, we wanted to capture some of the stories. And if you follow us on social media, if you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, teenagers, we've got a TikTok account as well. If you follow us, you're going to start seeing some of these videos as they get finalized coming out of some of these stories from our trip over there. But one of the times we went into this village right here, and we went in to interview one of the girls that we had rescued who was 16 years old. And we went into her hut that looked exactly like one of these right here. And when we walked in that hut, she shares it with another 16-year-old girl. And in that hut, there was a little cheap plastic roll-out mat that the 2 of them sleep on, concrete floor, toothbrush and toothpaste, and she had a bag with 2 changes of clothes. That was everything she owned. And for over 1 year before people like you sent rescue, this was her reality. She would wake up in the morning, and her and other young girls would walk down to a well-known street corner, and they had to hope that they were picked up by somebody driving by to get abused so they could get $2 or $3 to eat that day. And then the next morning, she would get up and she would do it again. And the next day, she would do it again. So there's a different mindset with poverty. I know you and I here, we're already thinking about Thanksgiving dinner, aren't we? You are. Some of you are doing it right now, I can tell, because like you're looking up here, but you've got saliva going on because you're really thinking about food right now. And we're thinking about that. We're thinking about Christmas. We're thinking about trips that are coming up, right? We anticipate. We look forward to the future. We have excitement about things. You don't have that when you're in this kind of situation. When you're in this situation, all you do is you wake up and you go, how am I going to survive another day? And you wake up the next day, how am I going to survive another day? That's all you've got. There is no help, there is no hope, there is no future when you're in that kind of a mindset. But this girl, just by us enrolling her in our food program, just by giving her enough food to eat every day, she never had to make that walk again. Just by giving her enough food. Something you and I just take for granted. And when we got done interviewing her, she said, thank you, thank you, thank you. I've run out of words. Amazing stories of girls that you are helping to rescue. So we have, what's really cool is we went over and I was excited to find out, okay, what are these ministries like? What were they doing already? And then what are they doing now that we're partnering with them to be able to help rescue kids? So we went to one of these pilot countries, and in that country, one of the organizations that's been there for 25 years, they have an orphanage, and they have capacity for 70 kids. So that's all they've been able to do. They can max out, which no, I shouldn't say all, because that's amazing, but it's always maxed out. Once they hit 70 kids who don't have food or don't have homes, they're done. Well, we use a community care model. We want to keep kids in as normal of an environment as possible, because when they get institutionalized, they get dependent on the adults, and they get used to a standard of living that's not sustainable for the long haul. So we want them in as normal of a situation as it is. So it may be that they get to stay at home and live with the family, which we have to do our due diligence, because when it comes to human trafficking, over 40% of human trafficking victims, it starts with a family member. So we have to vet families to make sure it's safe for them to stay there. So it may be that we help out the family financially while the child goes through our job training program. Or it could be that we get 3 or 4 girls together and get them an apartment while they do that. It could be one of the girls that we rescue if they're too young to work, that maybe it's an older sibling that we bring into our job training program and get them through the program so they can support their family. But because of that model of care, this ministry that for 25 years has been maxed out at being able to reach 70 kids is now reaching over 350 kids. And what we've done is we've been able to add to them, we've been able to add field agents who go out and they build this network of informants that find out, hey, this girl is having to sell herself. So the field agents are able to go out, interview that girl, and determine if she can come into our program. And we also add agents who do the aftercare, because imagine the trauma that comes with this and the counseling that's needed for that. So we have people that do that. And then we add our TOJ field agents as well. So TOJ is training on the job. And what's awesome about the training on the job situations is these agents are going out into their local community and they're finding people who lead industry in an area that the girls are interested in working in. So like in Africa, the girls sewing, hair salons, and catering are the 3 big things that girls want to be involved in. So we're going to go out to, so let's say you own a salon, all right? So you own a salon, you agree to take 5 of my girls, and you're going to pour everything you can into them that you know about running a salon. But what's really awesome is most of the people that we're reaching out to, because it's through the church connections, are also Christians. So they're not just pouring job skills into these kids, they're pouring personally and spiritually into these kids as well. And what I'm going to do in our partnership is I'm going to pay their salary fully for 2 months, and then I'm going to pay it 2/3 for 2 months and 1/3 for 2 months. So at the end of 6 months, we've got these fully trained girls that if you have an opening, you know what you got because you trained them. So you take them and fill those spots. And the other ones, you have a network of other people who you know who own salons, and they're going to hire them because they trust you and your training of them. How cool is that? Within 6 months, these girls' lives have completely changed. Girls who were used and abused and had no hope and no future now are some of the happiest kids I've ever met in my life. We went into one of the salons, and these girls, we had 2 girls, and they had only been at the salon for 3 months. And the owner called over one of the girls and just started doting on her. Said, man, she shows up every day, she learns, she works hard. After 3 months, she has already earned a chair in my salon. And guys, you could have shoved a banana in that girl's mouth, and she couldn't have been grinning any bigger. Like, she was just like ear to ear smile and just so excited about her future. And you just go back a few months and her life was totally, totally different. It's amazing stuff. So let's go ahead to the next slide. One of the other projects, nations that we went into, we work with a church, and that church works in one of the biggest slums in the country. And as we were walking through the slums, people were looking in your direction, but they were looking through you. It was just blank stares. And our local field agent said most of these people are simply waiting to die. And we went to interview 3 of the girls that we had brought into our program. And while we were sitting there interviewing these 3 girls, more than 60 other girls lined up, hoping that they would be able to get help as well. So we went from that in the morning, that heaviness of that in the morning, to the afternoon. We went to one of our project sites. And at that project site, we have 45 girls who have been rescued. So they live at the project site, and they have classrooms at the project site that teach those 3 things: sewing, salon, and catering. And you know what the first thing I heard was when I slid the van door open? Joyful laughter. We spent the next 3 hours playing basketball and playing board games. And because they're in countries that there used to be British colonies, so they speak British English, we got to hear the girls' stories straight from them. And one of the girls, she came up to me at lunchtime, and her teacher, she was in the sewing class, and she took my measurements with her teacher, and 3 hours later, she came back to me with this shirt here. I think I was rocking that pretty well, don't you think? Yeah? But look at the grin on her face. We modify, that's intentionally a modified picture there, because anytime we think there's a chance a girl could be in danger, if we put out her full face, we make sure that we modify those pictures. But I didn't want the grin getting modified, because that grin just says it all. This girl is so excited about her future now. So excited. So I mentioned to you earlier that 2 of the people that we have at one of the sites that we met that are just amazing people. Let's go ahead and put up the next slide. So what we have here, remember I mentioned when we have these field agents and we find out about a girl who's having to sell herself. And we go out and we do this interview with the girl to see, we want to make sure, verify her age, get contact information, and then we want to talk to her about whether she wants to come into our program. So this picture here is that actually happening in that moment. That interview is happening right there. And the other picture, again, modified for their protection, is the 2 agents that we got to go out with. And they are 2 of the most amazing people on the planet. And their stories are incredible. See, where we were at, this was in Uganda, so this was in Gulu. So you guys remember Joseph Kony, the Lord's Army, all the slaughtering that happened? Gulu, the people in that tribe were the tribe that resisted him the most. Therefore, it was the region that he slaughtered the most people. So this ministry that we work with, Illa Uganda, there's about 30 people on staff, and half of them are probably under 30 years old. So when we sat and listened to their stories, they literally spent the first half of their lives running in fear. They would be in town during the day, and then they had to run out and sleep in the bush at nighttime, because that's when the raids typically happened. So from birth until about 15 years old, for a good chunk of that staff, that's all they knew that life was. And yet these are some of the most hope-filled, joy-filled, Christ-filled people I have ever met. And their stories are the same, what they've gone through. I know I got to sit with her for a little bit, and several of these girls that are on the staff, young ladies I should say, the older I get, you know how that is. The threshold for using the term girl goes up too. But this younger lady here that's like 28, 29 years old, she was taken as a slave by one of the leaders of Joseph Kony's group, and for years was abused over and over again by that leadership. And yet here now, she takes her story and she uses that brokenness and lets God use it to go out and bring hundreds and hundreds of kids into freedom. And that's really awesome. So Abby, if you want to come up here. So one of my teammates, Faith, she just came back like 2 weeks ago from going over to Africa and visiting the same places that I saw a few months back. But she actually wrote this, and I asked Abby to read it. But this is the story from the girls' perspective.
I don't want to be here, but I didn't know what to do. This is all I am. It's my only means for food. I don't have any parents. I can't go to school. I must feed my siblings. My body is my only tool. My body aches in pain. I can't rid the shame. The men are gross and dirty. Sometimes they ask for the payment, or when I ask for the payment, they hurt me. This is all life is. I don't feel human anymore. I'm like meat in the market, a product for pleasure. Again and again and again, he takes and walks out the door. But this man's eyes look different, something kind and gentle beams. He's not drunk or touching me, interested in me, he seems. I wonder if he'll come back, this confusing mystery man. Is he just another customer? Why did he pay just to talk and then off he ran? The mystery man came back. He handed me a contact card. He said he could help me. He said he could get me a new start. I called the mystery man. He said, "We'll come and explain." I'm scared and nervous. What if this is a trap that brings me more pain? I see him walking towards me, the mystery man with a woman beside. She glowed like an angel. My fear suddenly calmed inside. They came into my village, right into my home. This woman looked into my eyes and told me I was not alone. I cried and cried and cried as I poured out my weary heart to this angel lady. I don't know why I trusted her so fast. Her eyes and care welcomed me. She put her hand on my shoulder and told me it was okay to cry. I looked up at her and saw hope. Maybe I'll live and not die. She invited me to a program where she said I could get food, job training, and care. It felt too good to be true, but I heard myself say yes, and where. I was shaking as I walked through the gate. So many smiles met my face. Many girls just like me. My heart calmed. Am I free? I ate until I was full. What a luxury. They gave me a food pack for my siblings and me. How can this be? They had a doctor examine my body. I was scared to death. But he gave me medicine that made me feel better. He told me I mattered, and so did my health. They gave me a new dress. It was long, blue, and beautiful. I never felt so special. I couldn't wait to enter the gate each day for the morning devotionals. We prayed to God and sang to Him like Mama did before she left us. They helped my heart and my brain through trauma counseling. They told me it's not about the snake, but removing the poison the bite brings. They taught me what forgiveness means and how it sets you free. I didn't believe them at first, but now I know forgiveness is what made me a new me. I chose to learn tailoring so I could make beautiful clothes. It was challenging, but I worked hard, and soon I will have a shop of my own. They provide everything I need to get started: a sewing machine, cloth, thread, and more. I'll be able to support myself and my family, my very own store. The program is coming to an end. Oh, how my life has changed. I now have friends and a new family, and God, who broke all my chains. I've learned that I'm a child worthy of love and protection. I learned that God loves me and that He will guide my new life's direction. Thank you, mystery man. I now know who you are. God sent you to rescue me so He could heal my broken heart. Thank you, angel lady, for the way you looked into my eyes. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be living in abuse and evil lies. And thank you, God, because of you I am free. I've never been called daughter my whole life, but now I am one because I have a Father who loves me. I hope the mystery man finds many girls just like me, and I pray the angel lady looks into more eyes so they too can be free.
Thanks, Abby. One of the other project nations that we went into, what is happening is the church that we are partnering with, they are networking with 6 or 7 other churches, and they're getting a bunch of the families licensed for foster care, which is a lot different, not all the red tape it is here in the U.S. but they're getting families licensed for foster care so that when kids are rescued, they can immediately be placed with a healthy Christian family. How awesome is that? And during the trip, we got to sit in a room and capture some of the stories of some of the girls. And then we got to sit in a room with about 20 of these foster parents. And one by one, they stood up and they introduced themselves, and they shared about the kids that they had and some of the challenges that they had, and they shared their whys. And these are people, we got to visit 5 of their homes. And these are people who barely are getting by themselves. And yet they have enough extra to be able to bring another child into that house. And 3 different people said the exact same thing. They said, if you can, why wouldn't you? If you can, why wouldn't you? And I think that's the challenge for the church today. If you can, why wouldn't you? If your church can set kids free, why wouldn't you? If your business can set kids free, why wouldn't you? If your school could set kids free, why wouldn't you? Guys, we live in the richest country in the history of the world. What better thing could we possibly use our money for than rescuing kids out of this kind of horrible darkness? You know, when we talk about how we support things for Destiny Rescue, there's 2 primary things as far as financially that I want to talk about real quick. The first is the rescue partner. So this is literally any monthly amount. There's the small table when you get out. If you want to grab one of those, you can just fill that out. I literally have people who do $1 a month. I have people who do $1,500 a month to rescue kids. It's the idea that all of us can do something, and God takes all of those somethings and sets a lot of kids free as a result of that. And then the next slide talks about our Rescue a Child. We've been doing this 21 years. We know the average cost to rescue a child is $1,500. The cost to do the undercover work, get in there, get the girls out, get them to a safe place to start their freedom plan. So we know literally $1,500 will set a child free and change their life forever. So here's my challenge to you. What are you possibly going to do in the next year with $1,500 that's more significant than that? And if that's something that resonates with you, that God stirs inside of you, it's not supposed to be any kind of a guilt trip. I'm just trying to speak truth here, because this was my thought before I ever came to work for Destiny Rescue. What could I possibly do with that kind of money that's more significant than setting kids free? And I know you guys are at a milestone here as a church family, because you guys just paid off all of this, right? And it's a real easy tendency, guys. I've been a pastor 23 years. I've seen this. There's a real easy tendency to be like, hey, we're done. Got the building paid off. No, guys. This is where it gets to be fun. This is where kingdom impact really starts happening. It's like your personal finances. When you get out of debt, all of a sudden you are freed up to just really start making kingdom impact. And that's where you are as a church family. Now you really get to start having fun investing in kingdom stuff. Buildings are important, but man, the things you can be a part of now are incredible. And you guys get to have that. You guys get to go through that process this year to think about, all right, what's next? What's God got for us? What's God want us to build into in our community and in the world around us? That's a fun thing. Lean into that, because that's going to be awesome for you guys to be able to experience together. But I want, Luke, you want to go ahead and come up here? I know we were kind of talking around ideas and throwing around ideas of like, okay, what would it look like? You know, I'm in Goshen, Indiana, and Oklahoma, and of course, you've had a heart for Destiny Rescue for years, ever since you moved up to Goshen and everything. So you want to share a little bit about what you're thinking?
We have resources, right? We do. And there's an amazing heart of generosity that exists in this church. But you know what? That's easy to do. What I want to do is I want to challenge us to take the next step. I believe that there is something more that we can do, because now that we know what's going on, we have an opportunity to be the impact location for this community to raise up something more. We have the opportunity. I have spoken with the Ministerial Alliance. I have spoken with Shauna Rupp, the head of our Chamber of Commerce, because there is opportunities for the churches and the businesses and this community as a whole to come together and do something powerful. I want to challenge us in this next year to consider organizing and helping front through KMA and partnership with the Chamber to grow a project called a Freedom Walk. They've done this a couple of times already up in Goshen, and they've raised over $200,000 in 2 years of doing this. It's real simple. People sponsor you to walk a certain distance, or they sponsor you per mile or whatever. But I'm thinking to myself, we got this amazing trail that we've been working on building over the years. Why not create a Freedom Walk through Kingfisher Trail? I think the most amazing thing about that particular event was the first year you did it, you had the guys from Grace that participated.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful stories that came out is that there were a few guys that they looked at this and they said, you know what? Those girls never get a moment for a break. They are put into this 24/7. And those guys walked for 24 hours straight. I don't know if I could do that. We have an opportunity to build a heart for something that we can do more, and we can do it not just on our own, but as a community. And I believe that the churches and the businesses and the heart they have in this community has the ability to create a giant impact in ways that probably we don't even realize at this point. Now, I'm not telling you you can't give. If you want to give, you want to rescue a girl, you want to do something personally, please don't hesitate to do it. It's amazing. But I do ask that if you're interested in helping me communicate with people to build this Freedom Walk, I'd love to have a team that'd be willing to do that. Our missions team already has developed a heart, and we are giving toward Destiny Rescue, but I believe we can grow this beyond our own walls into a greater impact than what we just have right now. So that's my challenge to us as we step forward.
And guys, it's not hard. I mean, you go to local businesses and you say, hey, would you guys sponsor? It's a run, walk event. Would you consider sponsoring? And you do it in increments of $1,500 for rescuing a kid. Would your business consider sponsoring us to rescue 2 kids? Would your business consider sponsoring us for 1 kid? And you get sponsors that way. And then you put teams together and say, hey, you know, we're going to go out. Maybe it's, I don't know, if it's a 4-hour event. And you put your own teams together and say, okay, we're going to put teams together and we're going to see how far we can walk as a team. And maybe you have some fun awards for that kind of a thing. But then you share it on social media and have people support your team as well. Like, people want to be a part of this. They just need something tangible to get a hold of. I mean, your community at some level knows trafficking happens, but they have no idea what they can do about it. This gives your entire community something tangible to do about this and to be a part of it. And it's not just about raising money, it's about activating the faith of God's people. That's what we want to see as well. And I want to leave you with this imagery on that, because let's go back to the girl in the hut. She wakes up in the morning, she makes the walk down to get abused. She wakes up the next morning, she makes the walk down to get abused. And the next day she walks, and the next day she walks. And when we do a freedom walk, we walk so she doesn't have to. That's what the Freedom Walk is all about. You guys can fully make that happen, and you guys can be the launching point for a Freedom Walk in Oklahoma that God will use to set a lot of kids free. So go after it.
I'm going to invite the choir to come on up. They're going to bless us and close us this morning. But as they do, will you just pray with me? Father, I thank you for your hand. Father, you are forever protecting. You know those kids. You know where they're at and what they need. Father, I pray that you would continue to empower Destiny Rescue and their agents to find those locations and continue to use them as your tools. And Father, greater than that, raise us up in new ways, because we have the ability from afar to impact this at levels that we probably don't even realize. And through that, Father, may there just be amazing praise and amazing glory, and may the smiles that are upon those girl faces remind us of the greatness of God. We pray this in your precious name. Amen.